Welcome to the MMHP and the 989, channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history.
Hello, Michigan music lovers. This is Scott Baker. I want to welcome you to the Michigan Music History Podcast. I am flanked by Michigan music royalty. To the left, Dr. J. To the right, Sir Fred. We cut from just around the block of the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame in Bay City, Michigan, here at Studio 163 in Essexville. And now it's time to grab a favorite beverage, hit the cruise, and take a trip back with us through Michigan's rich music history.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at Electric Kitsch, located at 2106 Kosciuszko Avenue in Bay City, Michigan. And now, here's your host, Scott Baker.
Hey, we are back at Studio 163 here in Essexville, and we have a cold, blustery, interesting weather week here.
Slippery also. You
Snow
watch your
on,
step
snow
out there,
off, yeah, rain, everything. And then snow coming tonight, and they said next week, middle of the week, more crap coming in here. But here we are in the winter, in our season 2, and special guest in the house tonight, Dave Prager, Mr. Ronnie Round himself. We are doing our first punk episode, and he's going to take us through the Michigan music history version by his through his eyes, I should say. And how you doing, Round?
I'm fine.
You doing fine? All right. I got Dr. J in the house. Dr. J, what's new?
Well, we're definitely going to open the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame on March the 12th, Saturday at a second Saturday presentation. I'm going to do one on the book, Frankie Lyman's Tombstone Blues, and then we're going to open the exhibit.
And then that book is available for pre-order right now?
It's available at the museum. You can call the museum or just go there. It's museum is open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And, everything's looking pretty good right now.
Where's your museum at?
It's at the Historical Museum of Bay County.
Washington?
They've
Next
given
to
us...
City Hall.
Yeah, right next to City Hall on Washington
Okay.
Avenue. And, we've got the second floor gallery, plus the stairwell and some hallways as well that we've taken over. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. We got a nice video component in there. So
That sounds
kind
exciting.
of a very miniature version of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Michigan-based, though.
It's all
so
Michigan.
cool.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that you told me. I saw Gary this weekend, and he was telling me how cool the video is for it. And a lot of people don't understand that this whole project that he's been putting together, he already has half of, or maybe a third of your stuff is over at Scotty's Sandbar too, right?
Well, there's a display at Scotty's.
Yep.
That's going to remain there.
Okay.
But, it's kind of hard to put up a lot of memorabilia in a bar.
Mm-hmm.
But, Scotty's done a pretty good job. We've got it up high enough, the album covers and so on, that I think it's safe. And, nobody's messed with it.
That's great.
Scotty's is a great place.
Yeah.
It's where I saw Around a Distant Few a few times over there.
That's been our home base since the beginning.
Back when it was, what was it before Scotty's?
Well, it's just the sandbar.
Shipwreck Sandbar. Yeah, Shipwreck.
It was a shipwreck when we first started playing.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I forgot that they had changed the name. I remembered it as a sandbar when I first turned 21. That was quite the hot bar out there.
When I was turned 21, it was Shipwreck, because that was. I'm like, I was something else that I remember, but you've always called it the Sandbar, and that's all I know it now. But
Yeah.
that was the prior name. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that was back in KMJ's day. It was the sandbar.
Yeah.
All the rowdies call it.
Yeah, Essexville's own.
Yep.
Sir Fred is in the house. How you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Good. Anything new this week?
Well, just working on my book, trying to finish it.
How close are you now?
Real close. Except I'm just trying to put it together. That's the hard part of it. But all the things that I want to write about, I think it's all there. It's just needs to be edited and put together in a readable way.
You've really been busting on it.
Yeah.
I mean, this past 2 months here of January and February, it seems to be your focus.
Well, I put a goal. I wanted to have it out this year, so it's already February, end of February or middle of February. Goes by so quickly, and it takes a couple months to have a couple friends of mine edit it, and then at the printer, you never know how long it's going to take there where I get it printed at.
That's awesome. So this is your third book. Gary's first is coming out here when the Rockwell Hall of Fame Legends opens up here. Oh my gosh, you guys are rocking it. Everybody's really into the art right now, and I want to say Mike Beatty's in the house too, our archivist. Thank you, Mike, for coming along. Round, you are back in the studio wrapping up an album that has been started how long ago? An EP?
Before the heart surgery.
When was the heart surgery? Because people don't even know. 2016.
August 2016.
And you are going to put a little bow on the career of Round in a Distant Few with this release, you said?
I've been thinking about it. There's other things I want to do, and I'm not getting no younger.
Yeah. Well, you do want to remaster the records, because I know that you've been in talks with me about that, so that's something sweet.
I know you do, too.
No, I can't wait to dig into those things in the studio. I was listening to one today, and I'm like, I'll get an idea for this idea. You just hear the way they were recorded back in the day, Round, take us back to Garber High School, where you came out of, and when did this start? When did this bug begin for you?
I started playing the keyboards when I was in high school. And back then it was like funeral dirge stuff.
Were you playing it in high school, like or like at home or for friends? At
home.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. You never did it for any choir performances or Garber band or anything? That was probably the last thing you were thinking
I was
of.
still antisocial then as well.
Now, you went to school with the Burdens, right? That would have been... Did you graduate with Dave?
And KMJ, yeah.
Okay.
KMJ band, too.
Judy Jacobs, was she in your class?
Actually, Marianne Jacobs was in my class.
Oh, okay. So Judy was a year or two younger then, right?
Yeah, and our family and the Jacobses were very close, along with the Pascuzzis. And we used to have a big picnic out at State Park every year, all of our families.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, I taught at Kramer Junior High for many years with Judy. She was a real good friend of mine. And I'm really dating myself here, but I had Marianne in a catechism class. When I was teaching in Bay City, my first job in Bay City was at St. Joseph Grade School, where I went to school. And they hooked me into teaching a catechism class. The most unlikely guy ever to teach catechism, let me tell you. I did everything I could to skip catechism and skip mass. That was my specialty when I was in Catholic school. But anyways, that's how I got to know Marianne and Marianne's mother, and Judy, of course, who was a couple years younger.
Suzanne.
Yeah. Well, it's real interesting. Judy gave me her mom's yearbook, and she graduated the year after Madonna's mother. And so this yearbook was Madonna Fortin, was her senior year. It's got all kinds of pictures of her as a cheerleader and, president of the, I don't know what.
Sorry.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
My mom graduated with Madonna's mom. They were like...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So she went to St. Joseph also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did my dad. But they didn't know each other. They met at Chevy's. Chevy's.
Working at Chevy?
Yeah, that's how they met.
Wow.
Then once they got hitched, she didn't have to work there no more.
Oh, what was your mom's maiden name?
Seiferly.
Okay. So do you have that yearbook by any chance?
I could, because I have her box of stuff.
Okay.
And there's picture books where I opened one and all the little graduation pictures fell out.
Okay. Yeah, well, that was
You're welcome to look at that stuff.
Oh, I would love to. Yeah, and I was going to say I'd bring that yearbook over and let you look at it if you didn't have a copy of it.
My mom used to talk about Madonna's mom.
Really?
They were friends. I don't know how close.
That's cool, though.
But I knew she died young and all that from in early age. And then my grandma and her grandma used to sit together in Mass.
Oh, my Lord. I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about going to a small high school like St. Joseph was you knew everybody in the class. I don't know how many they had. I'm guessing it couldn't have been, much more than 30 or 40 kids in the graduating class. I know our graduating class had 60 or 61, and that was the biggest graduating class I think it was ever at St. Joseph. So, that's fascinating.
Wow, I'll have to hook you guys back up again then. That's cool.
And my dad went to St. Joe's when he lived out at the farm by you on Knighton Ridge.
On Knighton Ridge there? Yeah.
Yeah. Supposedly walked there. But I don't know. I don't know.
That's a pretty good hike.
I don't know, but
uphill both ways in the snow.
Stories go
The story grew in the telling.
We used to have to walk to school.
Yeah. Oh, Round. So you were banging some dirges out while you were in high school. What year did you graduate at, Garber? 82. 1. 78.
I was supposed to graduate in 76.
No. I always get this wrong.
Okay, well, and then if you look at the 77 yearbook, you'll see a picture of me that says, how long have you been around? Because I had to go back for a half of credit because I flunked Mr. Middleton's government.
Perry Middleton.
Yeah.
I know that's where I know you from, Ron. Is I used to hang out in Mako's basement, 74, 75, 76. That's probably where you remember me from.
Mike Beatty hanging out in Essexville.
Yeah, and Mako went to All Saints after he got kicked out of Garber,
Yes, most of my friends did.
and the Mitchells. Yeah,
I got kicked out of St. John's and I had to go to Garber.
Oh.
The year my mom was PTA president. Sister Donna asked me not to return for 8th grade, so I had to go to Kramer.
Oh, sheesh.
That was a culture shock.
I bet.
Going from St. John's to Kramer.
I remember when they did it naturally in 7th grade or whatever it was back in my day, and they were like, all of them were, every kid was like, this is so cool to be able to kind of be open and have all these options. It was like all of them were like that. There wasn't anybody that didn't like the idea. But I'm like, I never had to go to Catholic school, so I didn't have to experience that. But,
You win. But I was thinking about that recently, that there's good memories of that too.
Oh, yeah.
Although you had to go to church every day, and the whole dressing in the uniforms, Youth for Hitler thing, like you're all in the big line, and hanging on to the person in front of you. You know what I mean? That's pretty kooky. And the penguins and the yardsticks, but that's all crazy.
So you were obviously getting home from school during that time period and losing your mind in some other kind of sounds. What were you listening to at that time?
Bowie. Till I discovered the Dead Boys.
The Dead Boys, that were the next one? Yeah, opened up your mind
And
to
the
something?
Dictators.
Yeah.
And then the Pistols.
And that came right around the time of graduation, eh?
Oh, we all discovered it about the same time. If he was hanging in Mako's basement, he probably was listening to it too at about the same time.
Wow.
But I think at that time they had the place above Freeman's there, the old Irish's Market.
Yeah.
They had an apartment above there. We won't go into that. But I started Distant Few with Mako.
You didn't get into the New York punks? The New York punk scene?
Not till I see him down at my old theater. That's the Emerald now. That I always dreamed about making a music theater when I worked there. Oh, I wasn't going to talk about that. Okay.
You could talk about it. No, bring it on.
I was in adult entertainment, and I used to work I had a drive-in in Algonac. And in the wintertime, I would go to work at the adult theater in Mount Clemens, which was called the Jewel at the time, and it was humongous. And now it's the Emerald.
I've been to the Emerald.
Yeah. Well, picture being a young pup running projectors of that big.
Porn.
No, porn's got nothing to do with it, except that's what paid my bills. But no, looking out that window, running the projectors and that big stage and everything, that's all I could picture was a music theater, and then years later I went to a big punk rock show there and I was like, dang, it's real.
The vision came true in another sense, yeah.
And it's not Miss New Detroit.
Well, when you went the punk rock show, did that have like the Ramones or some of those people? Or
I'll
what?
tell you exactly who it was. I went there because the Dickies were playing, and I had never seen the Dickies.
Okay.
And the Damned were playing.
The Damned from England?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yep. And then there was Agnostic Front and some New York bands there, okay, that I had never seen. And then a band called Balzac from Japan, okay. It was a really cool lineup.
Yeah.
Except that the mainliners were supposed to be the Misfits. And you had all these little kids dressed up with their Misfit garb and that, and the masks, and that all geeked up. So they're headlining.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Damned, not the Dickies.
But for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Misfits. And here's what you get for the Misfits. All right. The muscle bass player with the squirrely bangs. Marky Ramone on drums.
Really?
Yes.
Sitting in.
And then a young pup on guitar that looked like Greg Scripjack. And all the songs were the same beat, and it sounded like the Ramones do the Misfits.
No doubt.
It sucked. We left like after one song.
No Danzig? No what? No singer?
No, it was just that Jerry Only guy was.
Oh, and Jerry Only was of them. Okay.
The muscle bass dude.
Player dude. Okay.
Yeah, and then a kid that looked like Scripjack on guitar, and then Marky Ramone on drums, and it was all the same beat. It was terrible.
What a memory. What year was that?
I don't have a clue. You'd have to ask
80s.
Neil. Ask Neil.
Yeah, okay.
He remembers all that stuff.
Hmm.
No, it wasn't the 80s. It was the 90s.
Oh, yeah? That was your first trip to the Emerald?
Since
the day, yeah.
Since the takeover.
And that's when you started getting into New York bands? New York punk?
No, I liked the Dictators.
Okay.
I always liked them from the second I heard them.
Okay.
I still cover them.
Yeah.
Did you ever run into Jerry Vile, I think his name was, out of Detroit? He had a punk band, and he was very well known. I booked him up in Saginaw once, and they got fired.
I heard of
I've heard of after a couple songs because they were so vile. And that was his last name.
We've had those days too. I'll just tell one. The place in Frankenmuth, they used to have the bands. We brought the bands back because homie was working at Zender's or the Frankenmuth Little Caesars, I can't remember, but he was Kid Frankenmuth at the time,
Who's this?
Homie, our original bass player, my friend Ray Clark that we brought up from Royal Oak to start my restaurant and the band. He was the bassist with the big Robert Smith hair and, the chain that went from the ear to the nose.
Yeah. Yep.
People weren't ready for him up here.
Especially in Frankenmuth, eh?
No, or Bay City.
Yeah.
Anyways, that place, I can't remember what the name of it is right now. But
Was that the one that used to be a restaurant?
yeah.
Yeah, well, they had some pretty good lineup of people that would play there. I know Dick Wagner played there a number of times.
And then they quit having bands, and then we were the first band back, and everything was cool until, they got new carpet, and the manager, she was gay, and homie and his wife got into an argument, and he was doing his song, She's a Dyke. And it went into swear words, and they had that brand new carpet, and he yelled, "She's a motherfucking dyke," you know, and flips the cigarette through the air, and it lands on the brand new carpet, and that was the end of us playing there. But he was the one that's got us in. He was the one that got us out.
Wow.
A true punk rock moment.
No,
Yeah.
and I don't mean that bragging in any way.
No.
Because we were just like, we watched, me and Neil and Mako watched that cig just like fly through the air like, oh man. You know, and that lady standing there, it's like, and he already, you know.
Oh. And Neil is Rob Atha, who's been your longtime partner on a lot of this. Back a long ways for your production work and your guitars and songwriting.
Me and Mako and homie brought him in when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Mako's real name is what?
Mark Nearing.
Mark Nearing. Okay. I just want this for on the podcast so people know if they're looking up the names. You're using a lot of slang that only some of us would know today.
I always do, sorry.
Yeah.
I have my own language.
That's all good.
How did Atha get the name Neil?
Because when we had the restaurant, you remember the Young Ones?
No. The English series, punk series? Yeah.
There was Neil the hippie,
Oh.
and he cooked it. There were a bunch of English school kids, and they were all different. Vivian was the punk he had the studs in his forehead, and
that was a funny series.
there was a kid that was like a suit, but he was shifty, you know, and then Neil was, heavy, you know. He was Neil the hippie. And that's how Neil was when we first met him, you know. We were like, sorry, kid. Anyways, everything was heavy and stuff, you know, so I just called him Neil. And then I guess we put on Jones because the guitar player was Steve Jones of the Pistols or something. Somehow I added Jones on it, you know.
Yeah.
Ronnie Round, Neil Jones,
Yeah.
Homie, and Mako.
Oh, man. Is that the original lineup? Yeah. What year did you guys go out your first time?
1990.
1990. Now, before that, give us a little backstory of coming out of high school in the 70s then, and what did you do musically that built this up? I mean, that was your first real trek to the stage, or had you done a few things before that?
I had a bunch of weird songs, and, you know, the neighborhood kids thought they were cool, but it was funeral dirge, and I experimented with drugs at the time, you know, and there was, like, just really weird songs, and I did a solo. I had a Farfisa. I think I bought it from Dave Davenport. I'm not positive. But anyhow, it was called the Midland Backyard Tour. It was like this rich girl's house. And it didn't go over well.
What year was that?
Probably 70s.
Really?
I probably was still in school.
You got any tapes of that laying around?
No.
There you go. Get that box set history stuff.
Oh, I got demo tapes of the funeral dirge stuff. I'm going to be digitizing it.
There you go.
Like I did the Dear Mom thing.
Right on.
But, yeah.
So that took you through the 80s, just experimenting and writing. And what year did you decide I want to get going?
The 80s.
Because you got a lot of 80s in your sound too. For your style of punk is a blend.
I'm gonna keep it short. When I graduated in '77, the only place hiring back then, there wasn't a lot of jobs with cinema arts, and that's how I got into that business. Okay, I went there. And I went up the ladder fast. It was easy. You know, it wasn't even like a job. It was just simple. You know, if you could tolerate it. You know, there's a lot of weird stuff. But anyways, I shot up the ladder fast. Went to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Being a young pup, they would send me to places where, like, family people wouldn't want to go because I was a kid. Okay. So I went to Fort Wayne, Indiana, got blasted out of there, and ended up in Algonac with my own drive-in on 28 acres of land with 2 private spring-fed ponds and the Algonac State Forest over here.
Uh-huh.
And then when they turned it adult entertainment, the 2 neighbors on this side were our houses. So it was nice. For 9 years, it was a boy and his dog fishing, hunting, whatever I wanted right on that land.
Oh, wow.
But to get to the point, it had a trailer and I lived right on the property. And I wrote the whole Different Shade of Gray through the 80s on that Farfisa in the trailer.
So that came with you. You took that around with you.
Oh, yeah.
Where did you record A Different Shade of Gray? That had a, kind of like a big. I was kind of surprised because I guess I'd listened to some of your stuff in reverse order,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden this comes up, and it's just like all these production things and synthesizers and.
A Different Shade of Gray was all the songs that I've written or songs taken from the 70s when I was a kid with the funeral dirge through the Algonac years, you know, the trailer. And Dear Mom's recorded in the trailer.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know that.
And anyways, to answer your question, Frank Michaels had a studio back then called Poseyville Studios because he lived on Poseyville Road. And I don't know how I met. Somehow I met them through Z93 because my son. No, that can't be true because I recorded it there. I don't know how I met them guys, but we got to be mates, and I recorded out there. John Presler produced it, as well as Frank, and
that was your
and that's where we did Different Shade of Gray.
12, 13 years of music, your first record, and you had all them years to write it.
Yeah.
So you had all
it
them
was
ideas going into it.
It was like my greatest never released hits.
I got it.
Big
debut. Yeah.
Did Atha play on that album?
Yes. Yep.
How about Mako? Was he on there too?
Mako wasn't with us at that point. I think it was Todd Kula or Johnny Curry took Mako's place. Mako went on to do something else. I can't remember. Same homie went on to do Beaver Shoot, the punk porno rap thing out of Detroit.
Yep. Forgot about that. I remember hearing about that.
So that's when I got Jody Buchek was on bass.
Okay. Huh. So
Stephen Kelpinski on keyboards. And then I think later Judy.
Yeah, Frank and Judy, they were still playing together, those two.
And they're still playing with me too. The last show I did, they were with us.
Wonderful. Wow. Cool. That came out in 90, around 91, somewhere around there.
That was 93, wasn't it?
Yeah, the CD was 87 was the
So it got put on CD later. Yeah.
If we look on the Round and Distant Few Facebook, it'll tell us.
Yeah, okay.
I can't remember.
I think it was 93 because I was on there today looking at it.
Okay. Then Love and Pain was like 95 or 90. I think Most Impressive Girl cassette to hold them over till Love and Pain came out in 97, I think.
Cassette only release?
No, Love and Pain was CD, but Most Impressive Girl was cassette.
That's what I mean. Did you put that on here? No. Pissed at the World was a single version.
That's the one that we got the overseas airplay with. Pissed at the World, Vampire, and I can't remember the third one.
When you were doing those and you started doing shows, did you go out with anybody else? I mean, who were you getting booked with? Any good pairings along the way of Michigan artists that you...
Sure, Feisty Cadavers down in Max.
Yeah, in Detroit?
Yeah, and then we did the one of the first benefits for that Lucinda Williams, the Sweet Relief in Dayton. We did that.
A show?
Yeah, the Sweet Relief.
I didn't know you were on that.
Dayton, yeah.
Oh, okay.
With Adam and some other bands.
What exactly was the Sweet Relief?
It was that Lucinda Williams. What is she, folky?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Americana,
Americana,
I
yeah.
think would probably be a better
I've got
label
both
for it.
the Sweet Relief releases, that CDs that are out from back then in the 90s that came out, but I didn't know they had shows, I guess.
Yeah, in Dayton, they were all over America.
And you guys got on that bill there? Wow.
The internet was a small world then.
Sure.
That's how me and Toshi met. And I had a friend, Igor Vaganov, in Russia, playing my stuff in Russia.
You got the word out overseas right away on the internet. You were one of the first internet punk things to go out there, that's for
I
sure.
was one of the first internet, period, because I read an article that Aerosmith was on Yuma. Did you ever hear of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was like, oh, I got to get on this, because Different Shade of Grey just came out. And so I went to my friend Tom Grant, God bless me, with us no more, had a girlfriend who also named Prager, no relation, had a computer, all right? So I went to Radio Shack and bought a CompuServe 2.0. You had to buy them back then, and took it to her house, and it was like, the old dial-up, and it took forever and stuff. But the world was a small place, and the news groups were like little clubhouses.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
And I was hanging out with Neko Case. I know this is going to sound like bullshit, but it's the truth. Neko Case, because she was in Cub. Okay. The Deftones. Hung in the same thing. The Slipknot.
Yeah.
We're all a little group of goops, that... the chick with the Who Saved Us.
Jewel.
Yeah, she was in there. And they all went on to become famous but me. So, but I was DIY.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it took the Deftones like 2 years to get on MTV. From when we were all doing the viddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
all on the video shows together too. And
Wow.
they all, even that, those wankers that they sold out, I can't think of, Santa Monica, who sings that?
Sublime?
No.
Or, I know who you're talking about, Art Alexis there. The Alexicus, whatever his name is.
Well,
yeah.
when they first came out, when we were all doing our stuff, ours was Disappointed, was the first video. That guy or that band was doing Heroin Girl.
Everclear.
Yeah.
Thank you, Al. Al coming in from the texting to answer your question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everclear.
They call them wankers that sold out, huh?
But that's just my opinion.
I hear you.
A lot of people like them.
Yeah, no, they did. They all went. Everybody went their own way. But you were in. That's some of that little club that you initially were in when the net started. That was a huge thing.
Everclear came in when we started doing videos.
Okay.
But Jewel and all of them, they all, look at Slipknot. Slipknot hung with us in the
chat or
in the chats, because you were all in the news groups together. That's how me and Toshi met.
Toshi is from Japan.
Mm-hmm. We were in that international group together.
Didn't Toshi do the album cover for?
No, that's Toshi's wife did the album cover.
For Alone.
Alone and...
and Love and Pain?
Correct.
Okay. I remember when you said Toshi did that, and you're like, look at this is what my fans are doing right now. I think I was sitting with you in Essexville somewhere. We were just hanging out in the afternoon, and your mind was blown by this kind-hearted stuff coming from around the world, directed towards you, and one of those I'm big in Japan kind of guys, but couldn't even go over there and tour.
No, Toshi was my bandmate in the international project. But yeah, we were friends before that.
Yeah.
Though. FRT was that band.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at Electric Kitsch, located at 2106 Kosciuszko Avenue in Bay City, Michigan. They offer new and used records, including local to Michigan original vinyl and CDs, as well as clothing, electronic equipment, funky household items, music gear, and stringed instrument repair. You can find them on the web or call 989-402-1411.
Now, was Rock Your Ass, is that one of the video things?
Rock Your Ass was a TV show in Chicago. Larry did one too.
What year was that you did Rock Your Ass?
That's probably around 95 because we're doing the Love and Pain songs.
Okay.
But it's live. And Neil breaks a string and then he somehow his chord was going or something, and me and Scooter were like tripping out because Scooter was playing drums, and Scooter co-wrote "Pissed at the World" too.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, you guys covered that pretty well, though. When he broke the string, it was like kind of like a bass and drum solo going on there for a while.
Oh, Jeremy Race was the bassist.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And he had that fancy lad. He was with the Rugbies for a long time.
That's right.
And he had that fancy lad bass. What is that? A 5-string or something?
It's been a while, but yeah.
Well, it's what not a whole lot of people have them, but if you're good, you can play them. And him and Scooter covered it. Yeah.
Damn. I haven't seen that video in years. I mean, it's probably since it was been uploaded.
It's all over the internet. I hear about it all the time.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It'll come right up.
When my friend Cubby, Kevin Cole from Marine City, not this Kevin Cole, he did Dear Mom with me. He watched that after we released Dear Mom, and he was like, "Oh man, you looked really mad on that," and I hear that all the time. And I remember the chick saying he looked like he's going to kill someone.
There hasn't been a gig you haven't played where you don't have that look, though. They don't realize you're in the moment. Every time I've ever seen you on stage,
I don't realize
you're happy and hanging out outside of here, or not happy all the time, but you're a nice person to hang out with. But when you get on stage, you got that persona. It hits. You're thinking of shit. You got your mind's into the music, and or whatever's wrong, it's eating at you.
I guess. I don't know. I just play to have fun, and I always thought.
Yep.
Because Mick Furlow said that to me once. He's like, "You know what I dig about you guys? You don't care what nobody thinks. You just play to have fun."
That's cool.
I'm like, "Yeah, well, you can do that again too." Because he was all over Hometown Heroes when I first moved back from Detroit.
Z93, Hometown Heroes.
Yep. Individual was the one that we had the airplay with. That's how I met Lizard. Me and Lizard became friends because we were at Scotty's when it was a shipwreck, and he had Lizard on the rise. And I think we were recording at Ziggy's, and he was recording at Ziggy's, Love and Pain. And anyhow, I hope I'm not boring anyone.
No, this is your backstory. This is what we're here for.
Anyway, Lizard had heard Individual on Z93, and he's like, "Yeah, that song's pretty cool." And we've been friends ever since.
Well, what's he doing now?
His video thing.
Yeah? I kind of lost track.
Dark House.
Okay. So you took the 90s. That's when I first came to know of you and get to hang out with you. And I was in college during that time period and catching shows and listening to the records. And what propelled you to continue on? I mean, even till now, you got more story to tell and the story's coming to an end?
Well, I left something out. Me and Mako and Homie and Neil started Distant Few up here version in 90. But the original version, and here's the MC5 story, took place when I lived in Royal Oak in the late 80s at Rob Tyner's house with Rob Tyner Jr. on drums.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was the first Distant Few. So anyways, Rob Tyner Jr., Brendan Donovan, and me we're practicing, and Rob Tyner Sr. says, "Hey, you guys are ready for management," and then like whispers, "Ditch the old guy." And I was only in my 20s and they're in their teens. And I don't know how old he was with his big wrestling belt and Ted Nugent moccasin boots. You know what I mean? And I was like thinking, man, what a wanker,
You think he'd be on your side at that
And
point.
the other, and like Brendan Donovan's mom and somebody else's mom were all calling Rob Tyner like, don't throw him out. He wrote the songs, And
So what did Rob ever have to say to you? Anything good?
huh?
Did he ever talk to you?
The only thing he ever said to me was when I met him, he said to me personally, Rob Tyner, and shook my hand with the wrestling belt and the
Moccasins.
yeah.
That was it. Just introduced himself to you.
And then that was the only other time I heard him talk, and it wasn't directed to me, but about me. And it's like, you guys are ready for management. Lose the old guy.
Wow, right in front of you.
Yeah, in my 20s. So then when the day he died, we were playing the Shipwreck, and I said, I'm going to do this song for a friend of mine. And then I went, no, that's a lie. He wasn't my friend, but I'm still going to do it for him. In fact, he was kind of an ass. That's what I said. But we did like a Dictator's song for him or something.
Oh. Did you guys ever cover an MC5 tune before that or no?
Mako,
Mako, yeah.
KMJ.
Yeah.
Mako, but before Mako died, he was doing stuff for the record store, fixing up guitars for him. The
Kitch.
As
Yeah.
Electric Itch?
yeah, and they gave him like some imported MC5 album. He was so proud, and just before he went, man, he was just.
I didn't know
happy
he
as
was
a-
down there at the Kitch. Kitch is our sponsor for the show.
That's
And
cool.
I didn't know he was working down
I'm just going
there.
by what Mako told me.
Wow.
So,
That's wonderful.
you know.
They're great people.
Yeah,
We-
he was fixing up guitars for him when he died.
I didn't know that. And Jordan does his own now down there.
Well, Mark was fixing them and painting them. You know how fussy he was. It looked good.
Yeah. Wow.
And he got that MC5 album. I think it was an import. And boy, oh boy, I heard about that for every day for a week.
Back in the
Not longer.
70s in his basement, I heard MC5 for the first time by KMJ playing. And it wasn't until, a couple of years later I heard an MC5 album and I said, they're about as good as KMJ.
A lot of people said, it's like, yeah, just like the Stooges too, There's some people think that KMJ played that stuff better than Iggy,
Yeah.
That's cool. Wow. Essexville backstory there.
Yeah, so
So what happened to Rob Tyner Jr. in the original round, Distant Few?
right around that time that me and you were hanging out, the Sig Butt thing, we won't go into that,
Yeah.
at Hamilton Street Pub, he got a hold of me and he had his own band and he was supposed to come up along with that, I think it was I don't know if it was the Gorgor Girls or not, but they were going to come up and do a show with me, and then somehow
Hamilton Street Go-Go Girl show. I remember that. You were booking it. Dang. Takes me right back to... I remember you had all this stuff on the platter and it all fell through all the time.
Actually, I got pushed out of the picture once I brought it up and gave someone in charge the number. I was cut out of the show.
Oh.
But
I remember you had a lot going for you, though. You had a lot of stuff arranged with Detroit artists and other punk bands, and you started to get the ball was rolling, but then something was always happening.
Portrait of Poverty coming every year from Washington, playing the Sawmill with us.
Now, you put out an album in 2021, right?
20.
or 2020, but that was
No, not 2021. That was last year.
That was in 2021. That was last year. We're in 2021.
Oh, it's probably where we released it digitally.
Love and Pain. Is that the one?
This is
Yeah.
from 98 or 97 though, right?
Yeah, but it just was. It says 2021 because it was released digitally, and you remember, Scott, because that's when you first started talking about.
Yeah, when I was doing stories.
Oh no, when you first started talking about remastering it for me.
Oh yeah, well Rob's been talking about that with me for a few years since I've got my studio
But
going.
we added the New Order cover on it when we reissued it.
Okay.
Because I got finally distribution through DistroKid.
Right.
That's why we're all.
Yeah. I've got the original 3 anyway CDs here.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't even have them.
No, you always supplied them so I could write about them, you know. But
Well, you and Tom Gilchrist.
Tom
That's
Gilchrist.
yeah.
Now is that the album that has Bizarre Love Triangle on it?
A Bizarre Love Triangle just got added to the digital thing in 21.
Oh, so it's a bonus track.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a more recent recording then?
Oh no, it was recorded for a New Order tribute album,
Okay.
and then they said different genres than that. Anyways, when we submitted it, they're like, "Hey, no punk rock, only electro, blah blah blah," and stuff. You know, that's what happened to us when we played overseas too. We were DIY cassette only. You know, Lord Litter, who was giving us the airplay, friend of Toshi's, he was German, sent me to a distributor in England, and I called him on my mom's phone in England, you know, and I was like, yeah, we need distribution, we're getting airplay, and what are you playing, or what kind of music do you play, or whatever, you know. I said punk rock, and he's like, no, we only do techno, or something like that. Really rude, like you hear about, you know.
Right.
And then he said, what format? And I said, cassette. And he said, good luck. And just, that was the end of that.
So you didn't, they rejected your cover of Bizarre Love Triangle then?
No, they rejected the whole album.
That was
Okay.
Pain.
But what my point is, did it get on the tribute
Oh,
for New
no.
Order?
No, the tribute didn't accept it, no. And then we did a cover that people have been trying to get copies of Naked Ray Guns Holding You.
Hmm.
The word got out that we were going to be on the tribute album. And like everybody's been bugging me every so often over the internet for years, like, hey man, how do I get a copy of that? You don't, you know? But Neil's hunting it up right now, so we're going to finally release it. But what happened to that compilation was the label ran out of money or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably some school kid. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Big dreams and didn't have the pocket to back it. Right. It happens.
Just like me in the hall shows.
Yeah.
Always scraping by, but somehow we made them. You know?
Right. Jamestown.
No, Lincoln Road
Link.
was the ones I put on.
Oh, well, here in town. That's right. That was before. Okay, I'm thinking Jamestown Hall and Saginaw. That was where the big ones. But
We played there.
yeah, I remember you playing there. But,
Ethan was who put those on,
okay.
you know.
Remember the days of the hall shows. Those were some of the first ones that my generation, anyway, before we were 21, we were at a lot, you know, because those kind of the open places to go before the bars. And
Jamestown was where I got my tooth chipped because I thought I would be cool. All the moshers were out front, and I thought I'd be Mr. Cool Guy and like go out in the middle of them, you know. Pop! Got the mic right and chipped my tooth. Didn't miss a word though. You know, but man, stupid. There's been lots of dumb stuff, but I won't go into that.
so coming out of the 90s into the aughts, I know you were you put a few different lineups together trying to keep the boat afloat there. And
93, Neil and Kurt and John went their own way, and that's when I got Jody and Johnny Curry and Frank and Judy and Presler, and we won Best Alternative Band that year.
That was 93?
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, Radiotherapy was out. That's where they all went.
Yeah.
Robin, no.
They all went there to do their own thing.
Mm-hmm. So, give us a little bit of rundown of where you were heading going into the change of the century there. Where was your head at? Internet got a little bit better.
Actually, what happened was Toshi and the FRT thing happened first. Toshi and Francois. Toshi was sad because he didn't have a band. Francois lives in Paris. He's the guitar player. Toshi's keyboards and everything else in FRT. And well, now he's Mr. Horror Soundtrack composer. You know that if you follow my Facebook. You know, he's putting out something every week. But anyways, Francois's girlfriend lived in Japan. Francois went to see his girlfriend in Japan, and him and Toshi wrote like all this crazy Frank Zappa like stuff. Then they sent it to me, and it was the only music I've ever had to transcribe. I don't ever had to do that myself, you know. And I had to write it out because it was just like Zappa. It was everywhere, you know what I mean?
You had to give yourself some kind of map. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we did, and one song was called Alien, then the other one was about Meatman, Paulie's brother, the Burden sound guy.
Paul Schultz.
Paul Schultz's brother Joe.
Joe.
That died. One Way Ticket to Hell. It was about that.
So you did all the lyrics to the music? They sent you the music and then
Yeah, and
you
I
did the lyrics?
had to drive to Detroit because you had to do it all on computer, right?
For the first time.
Yeah. So I went down to the studio. My friend Joe Glass had moved to Dearborn, and he opened a studio called MFG with Gordon, like the Rowdies or something like that. And I did Toshi stuff there, and I liked it so much and them so much that I told Neil and them, come on, let's go down there and do Alone, you know. And we did. It was a long drive every Sunday to Dearborn, but and it was always raining and really hard where you had to pull over and that, it seemed like. But yeah, that released in 2000. Right after the FRT stuff.
Okay. I don't have any of the FRT stuff.
Yeah. I can get that to you.
The Alone, though, that's the EP. That was your last Round and Distant Few up until this
one we're working on now.
The one you're working on now, which is wrapping up everything since then. Right. Do you have a title for the new album that's coming out?
Yes. It's called We Never Did It For You.
We Never Did It For You. It'll be the last in the distant few. You're going to call it a career, you're thinking, with that one.
Yeah. Fancying maybe a Ronnie Round cover album. I've always wanted to do that. I have my own ideas about the associations, Never My Love, my version, and
covers. Yeah, doing covers.
Yeah, undercover.
That's cool. You know, you could also benefit. I think you have so much oddball video stuff that you've done over the years. To put a DVD out, just compilating all your stuff from your videos to your personal stuff. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're one of
we've been working on that.
That'd be cool.
You know that my next okay, right now I'm packing up the store because some fascists bought the building and we're all getting evicted. Okay, so now my garage sale is going to be out of my house. And
you are currently own a record store called the Avant Garage Sale, right?
But it's just a booth and a.
Yeah, I know where it's at.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You ever been there, Fred? You ever go to a record shop in there?
No.
And t-shirt shop.
Where is this?
It's behind Dobson's.
On Wilder.
Rent a car.
Oh,
there's a big flea market behind there. He's got a record store there.
The old gym. Well, you got 2 more weeks.
I was
Buy all
wondering
this.
if they ever had records in there. No.
Yeah, I do, and then Don.
The other guy has some down at the other end. Yeah.
Yeah, Don passed on, and they got his stuff.
Okay.
You know, because he used his head ahead of time and had them give. He took care of his own business, and then when he died, they got his records.
Now, is this used records?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all types, or are you pretty
it's
much
all-
specialized
it's all
in punk?
genres.
Okay.
I even got the sappy organ ones. You'll never see me play testing those. Though.
Okay, I'm looking for a Bay City Rollers record to display, not to listen to. Would you happen to have any Bay City Rollers?
Yes, I can hook you up.
All right.
And it'll be my gift to you.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool. I'm looking for one that has some tartan on the cover. So, we've got their handprints at the museum when they came here in
I'll
1977.
I'll look through them. I think I got 2 right.
Ooh, all right.
They actually sell fast. When you do have them.
I was surprised. Yeah, I was, went to some record stores. I went to Electric Kitsch, of course, and I couldn't find anything. It's geez.
And I remember when they came up here and that, I thought, man, what the PU? Because you watched them on Saturday morning, and they got little 11-year-old girls like, ooh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they had their shirts off and stuff. You're like, what the hell? What is this? But then it's just like, I never paid attention to them. But now when these albums come in and I got to play test them, I'm like, damn, these guys are pretty good, man.
Well, that Saturday Night was a pretty good song.
Yeah.
That was the one that really broke him in the United States. But yeah, there were about 5,000 of those little girls that
I know.
gathered there in front of City Hall when they came to town.
I think it was a Sid and Marty Krofft show. The Saturday mornings, and they'd be there with their little shirts off, and then the young, prepubescent girls are like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, one of the
crazy.
guys in the band got in a little trouble with underage girls, I think.
Oh. Boy. Yep.
But we are getting the key. I'm trying to think. Derek Longmuir, who is the drummer of the Bay City Rollers, he had the key that was presented to the band by then Mayor John Willards back in 1977. And there is a pretty big Bay City Rollers fan club here in the United States that's still pretty active. And the gal's in charge of it, her name is Rebel D'Elia.
Cool. That's a cool name.
Yeah, I know it, isn't it? Just sounds like a real punk, tough gal.
Punker than Rebel Wilson.
Yeah, there we are. So anyway, she got Longmuir to mail her the key, and she lives in Kentucky. And I've just been emailing with her. She's gonna drive the key up here
Wow.
to Bay City.
Whoa.
Nice.
And we're going to mount it on the wall there at the
That's exciting
Historical
news.
Museum. Yeah, so this is going to happen pretty soon. You know what? I hope she comes in the middle. I think it's going to be on the weekend, but it would be cool if she came here on a Thursday and we could talk to her about the Bay City Rollers. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
totally.
We'll see. But we are going to get that key.
That's cool. There's some good keys.
What year
coming in
were the Roller? I think I had my store here in Bay City at that time.
Yeah, they hit it big in 1976. That's
okay,
when,
I was that because my store,
Saturday-
my record shop here was 75 to 77.
Yeah, and by the time they came to Bay City, it was already, they were on the downturn. I think they had maybe their last charting hit came out when they were in Bay City, but they didn't perform. There was some sort of contractual
Wow.
thing.
That sucks.
But
I don't even think I carried their album at my store.
probably not. You had, Fred, you had kind of more. I don't want to
Eclectic?
say. Yeah, you didn't do too much of the pop stuff. I bought some pretty cool albums at Fred's store.
Did you go shop around at Fred's store back in the day when you were a kid?
I
Well,
was in the Davidson building.
let me answer that. I'm trying to remember. Ulsa Major,
Ursa.
Ursa.
Ursa Major.
Dick Wagner.
Yeah, Dick Wagner's band.
In My Darkest Hour.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, that album.
Okay. I had that one. Remember that.
Oh wow! You guys are all connected in a strange. All of us. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, record store owner. I mean,
Marco's basement.
yeah, that's just wild. So, Round, I've told you, asked you this before, and you always usually laugh at me, but for people that have never heard you, because you have a very unique sound musically, it's a good combination of a lot of catchy, good stuff. What was your impetus for ideas behind, like, your creation of music? Like, what could you tag it to? A little bit of what? A little bit of what? Like, how did you cook your meal, man?
Oh, I don't know. I just always wanted to do my own thing. And if it sounded like, the song that I wrote for Gargoyle Girls, that B movie, Rip Me Apart. If you listen to that, I thought that sounded like Danzig, and I hated that song because I sound like Danzig. That don't sound like me.
I hear Cure in your music. I hear
Bowie, probably.
I hear
Dead Boys.
Oh yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of maybe songs about relationships.
Yeah, that's because I'm an L. Romantically.
Well, there's a lot of loss, a lot of pissed off, a lot of losing, and the angst. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always looking to be the one that was beaten up all the time and come get me, and then you laugh at their faces by the end of the tune, which makes sense. I mean, that's total punk. But
there's a long tradition of that. Del Shannon is the master of those kind of songs of, heartbreak and, things going the wrong way. And, he made a career out of that.
Honestly, what it was is that, I know it's hard to believe, but I've, to this day, I'm shy around girls, and
that's why when I go in the grocery store, you get one on each arm. I'll never figure it out, man.
Oh, I did not.
Well, that's one of your song titles, right? Shy Boy or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, and that is pretty fitting. That's pretty accurate, Shy Boy. And all the girls that know me will call me that, Shy Boy. But, that you see me with Rachel Shore, that's Dave Shore's daughter.
I never met Dave, I don't think. Or if I have, I don't.
He used to do the parades and the telethons.
Okay.
Santa Claus.
It sounded familiar when you said it to me and you introduced me to her, but okay.
Yeah, he was a cool guy. He's the only reason I did the telethons. It wasn't Terry Watson. It was like, he was always cool. He'd ask us and we'd do it both days, four shows a day.
In the Bay City Mall? Essex Mall here? Is that where'd you do them at?
One was at the old Labadee downtown, and then, man, they jumped around. I can't really remember. I remember the Labadee was the big one,
Is that Dunlop Labadee? No, they were different ones.
Oh, yeah.
They're all in the ballpark there. I can't remember.
Well, that was
I think
he runs
that
Dunlop.
building's still empty.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well, fantastic,
It
man.
might have been that building that Art was going to tear down. It was created for carrying at one point too. When I was at Banana Bay.
Okay. So you said
it was a car lot downtown and it was empty.
that was the Jerry
had a
Lewis
lot of
telethon
windows.
weekends. Yeah. You get them all on video? You have copies of all that?
I did. I don't know if I do. Neil should have
I
them.
was gonna say that'd be good for this historical retrospective thing. Yeah, that's kind of cool stuff.
Oh, you mean the
DVD or something, documentary, yeah.
the documentary series?
Yep.
Now, if I remember correctly, Bizarre Love Triangle, going back there again. I'm a New Order fan. I can't help it. Is that the one you dedicated to Carrie? All right. Is there a story there that?
Yeah.
Is it a heartbreak story or?
I had a best friend. When I graduated in January of '77, I met a girl down my basement, my mom's basement, playing my music, and she thought I was cool. And I ended up moving up to Hale. She lived in Hale. And anyways, I came home one weekend. Oh, me and that girl didn't work out, but me and her sister did. Carrie was the one that we hit it off.
Mm-hmm.
And I came home one weekend to my mom's on the Bovish, and my two friends, best friends forever, went up there with a ton of beer and got them drunk, and you can guess the rest. And, where's Round? We were supposed to meet him here, So then the guy that did that, his wife told me, because he came home and told her, about it. And I was like, what the, and I was going to, get violent, but he laid on the couch. And anyhow, to cut to the chase, she ended up seeing, and I was stupid enough to do this, him, the one whose wife told me rotating weekends. It was our love train.
Oh, so that really fit the picture there.
Wow.
Wow.
He did get some ultra violence, but not, to him.
Well,
Yeah, from his wife. I would think, she knew what was going on and just accepted it. Jeez.
Well, no. She come to my house after that. And here's another case of the shy stuff. We had a swimming pool, so I was kind of popular, and there's always girls over. And she came over to go swimming. She had her bikini on, and I had my swimsuit on, and we went swimming, and we got out, and something I think really would have happened, except that my friend came over, one of those that they come over and they don't know when to leave. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just like hanging out and that, like make himself at home.
Mm-hmm.
So that never happened.
You said your parents lived on the Bobish?
Mm-hmm. My dad was the beekeeper.
Well, where on the Bobish? Because that's kind of where my roots are. But we were in Bay City on
Okay.
Rose Street.
All right. Well, we were 3 from the railroad tracks. Us, then Dieters, then Marinos.
Okay, so you were...
Between Plummer and the tracks.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
And my mom worked at Bush as a teacher's aide.
All right, gee. Okay, I must have passed your house literally thousands of
My
times.
dad sold honey. He was the beekeeper.
Okay, wow.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Where's your music going next round? You said you're gonna do some of the dirt stuff again, pull out something different. What's the future hold? What are we looking at?
Cover album.
Mm-hmm. You said that.
Thinking I'd like to do it with the Hoyt brothers because they've been my friends for a long time. And just to be different.
Who are the Hype Brothers?
The Hoyt brothers. They were in Wizard. Right now they're the Weekend Warriors. They play a lot of like my birthday and stuff
Okay.
because they do an excellent cover of Cowboy Song, my favorite Thin Lizzy song.
Cool tune. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would it be asking you to divulge some secrets, to ask you what other things are you thinking of covering besides the Association, which would have been kind of an unusual choice, at least in my thinking of what you might pick out.
I just probably for about 20 years I've been thinking about that Association song. I think I can do something cool with it, and I like it. And there's I Want You Around by the Ramones. I don't know. I'm sure I could jot them down.
Okay.
I got so many that I love, and
Yeah. Well, I love that song by the Ramones. That was my favorite song from their
Yeah.
debut album.
Well, thank you, Round. We appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah, that was great.
This is a little bit of history here from center mid-Michigan here onward. I mean, like Al and the podcast studio, Studio 163 here that we broadcast from, this is one of the very original podcasting studios in town, the earliest podcast to come out of the Tri-Cities.
That I caught on to.
Then you were, and you were one of the earliest internet things too, so
Yeah.
a lot of internet and digital age breaking information there.
But without really knowing it, I did know about this because of the J-Mac thing.
Right, it's a roundabout way.
Yeah.
Everything was tied together in our little town here. We all have been, though. Well, thank you, Round. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The MMHP is hosted on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our own Libsyn podcast site. You can also search MMHP989 on Facebook for up-to-the-minute information, as well as both Dr. J and Sir Fred's album picks of the week, posted every weekend. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredrife.com, and the Electric Kitsch at electrickitch.com.
This podcast wouldn't be here without special help from Studio 163's Alan Garcia, our podcast videographer and wingman, Mr. Mike Beatty, MMHP tagline specialist, Mr. Eddie Switek, and of course, Gary Johnson, Fred Rife, the Electric Kitsch, and all of our special guests, and especially you listeners. We want to thank you.
You've been listening to the MMHP and the 989. From all of us at the podcast, we want to thank you for